We continue here on Hot Stove, but it's time for a little Leading the League with our man Joel Sherman, who shirt tucked in, hair looks good.
He's buttoned up.
Absolutely. Joel is bringing a lot of professionalism. A little bit of a tan, I think, as well. Joel was down there in Florida, warm climes.
Arizona, Florida.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, you know, when I'm bringing professionalism to a show, the show's in trouble. Right? You know that.
No way. Padres, no stranger, Joel, to shuffling key players around. We saw that a year ago. Tatis goes to right field, wins a platinum glove. The guy was spectacular defensively. We saw what they're doing now. Ha-Seong Kim went to second after they acquired Xander Bogaerts. What could potentially be their defensive alignment this season?
Yeah, it was just, I was in Padre camp, and it really struck me that if you signed a contract with the Padres to play shortstop, it's almost certainly true that you will not play shortstop. Let's remember, Tatis, before the 21 season, signs that 13-year, $340 million contract. He has a couple of shoulder injuries that season. He played some outfield. The following year, he missed a whole year between injury and his suspension, his PED suspension. Kim, who had signed a 4-year, $28 million contract and been a utility infielder the year before, became the shortstop. Then they signed Bogaerts to play shortstop. Kim went to second. The second baseman, Cronenworth, went to first. This year, Kim goes back to short. Bogaerts goes to second. And by the way, the guy in center field is Jackson Merrill, who's one of the top prospects in the sport. He's getting a look in center field this year. Why is he getting a look? Well, you see this alignment here. The outfielders, those are the only three guys on their 40-man roster who play the outfield. Profar got signed last week. By the way, 11 years ago, he was the top prospect in the sport. He was a shortstop, and the guy who signed him internationally was A.J. Preller, who's now the GM of the Padres. If you fouled all those bouncing balls, you could probably play shortstop.
Hey, Joel, take me into that Bogaerts going over to the other side and what'd you hear out there? Mike Schilt went to see him. And I always thought Mike Schilt, when he was with St. Louis, was kind of a players-type manager. So to go out there and make a trip in the offseason to discuss possible moves, I think's cool. And nobody knew about it. It was just the way he was going to handle this situation.
I think, Billy, when Bogaerts signs an 11-year contract, the discussion is that you're unlikely to play shortstop the whole way here. Remember, he had come up a third baseman for a championship team in Boston. I believe they had Stephen Drew back then playing shortstop. So the idea was that at some point he'd end up someplace else besides shortstop. The fact that it happened this quickly is interesting. I think that it's pretty obvious that Kim is probably the better defender. But again, let's play the interesting game. Kim is a free agent at the end of this coming season. He's a guy who got discussed an awful lot on this trade market. I don't put it past A.J. Preller, who will do anything, that he could still get traded sometime between now and July 30th. And then the interesting question is Jackson Merrill ready to go to shortstop in the major leagues? Or does Bogaerts end up getting flipped back there? So I don't think we've seen the end of the bouncing ball there.
And this continues the further conversation, Joel, which is key players switching positions around the league, right?
Yeah, so I noticed it in the offseason, and again, it was more telling with the Padres. Think about this. There's four former MVPs. They're the top of this list here. Judge, Harper, Betts, Bryant. That's 5 MVPs among that group. That's $1.237 billion in contracts, and they're all going to be playing positions that are not their standard positions this year. Aaron Judge is in center. He won his MVP 2 years ago, mainly playing center. But, right, they got Soto. Soto's going to play right. Judge is going to do a lot of time in center. Harper came back from his Tommy John surgery, went to first base last year. That allows them to put Schwarber in the DH position, improve their defense in the outfield. Mookie Betts feels more engaged and less wear and tear on his body at second base. He's such a good athlete. He played a little second last year. He played a little short last year. This puts him at second base. And, look, we could almost forget that Chris Bryant is with the Rockies these days. He bounced around a little, and he's going to be their regular first baseman. And if I just keep going down this list, just real quickly. So last year, if you notice, Seth Lugo went from the bullpen to the rotation in San Diego, did real well, just got a 3-year, $45 million contract with the Royals. Michael King, Zach Littell, late last season were two of the better starters in baseball, flipping out of the bullpen. Atlanta, 3 years, $30 million with Ronaldo Lopez, Jordan Hicks, 4-44. They're both going to see if these guys could come out of the bullpen and be starting pitchers. They have some starting in their past. If Jackson Holliday makes the team for the Orioles because they have the defending AL Rookie of the Year, Gunnar Henderson, at shortstop, he'd do it as mainly a second baseman. And Tommy Edman, remember last year, Jordan Walker went from being a third baseman to a right fielder with St. Louis. They want their young player Mason Wynn to win that shortstop job. And if Edman is healthy after wrist surgery, he's going to be their center fielder.
It's impressive to think about what the options are being for all these players. Hopefully it all works out. Particularly like Mookie playing second base. I'm with you. That's less wear and tear, and he seems to be enjoying it and engaged as well. The D-backs are the team that made the World Series, Joel. We've talked a lot about the Dodgers and Padres, but you spent some time with Mike Hazen. He's a very sharp guy. He's made some shrewd moves this offseason. What's Mike saying about Arizona?
So, yeah, I went down to Arizona early because the Dodgers and Padres are playing third week in March, 2 games in Korea. So they got to open their spring training early. But the day before the Dodgers opened to reporters, I asked Mike Hazen if I could stop by and talk to him at Diamondback camp. And he said, come by. And essentially, I just wanted to say, look, the Dodgers are about to be the story of the spring. They're about to be the story of the season. Let's not forget, you swept them in the postseason, and you're actually the defending NL champions. And I wrote about that, and I've got to say, Mike was interesting on this. I asked him, what was it like to, they finished 16 games behind the Dodgers last year, and then you watch them sign Ohtani, you watch them sign Yamamoto. You guys mentioned earlier in the show Teoscar Hernandez. They got, what do you think about it? And you see the quote here, when it's that extreme, it helps you even more to focus on what we need to fixate and obsess over. And that's what is going to make the Diamondbacks the absolute best Diamondbacks team we can be, and see where that takes us. And guys, I actually think they had a good offseason. They needed to add some depth to their rotation. They got Eduardo Rodriguez, somebody that Hazen is familiar with from Boston. They re-signed Lourdes Gurriel, which I thought was important. They had a little bit of a rotation at third base last year. Eugenio Suarez will bring power and defense to the position. And by the way, I think the Jock Peterson, Randall Grichuk lefty-righty thing will help. They were short on left-hand hitters. Peterson will help with that. Those two guys really excel against their opposite lefty-righty, as you see here with the numbers. And last season were their best numbers of their career against the opposite. And I do think the other place is growth. I think that's a team that's helped by the fact that they played in the postseason last year. We saw Gabriel Moreno. I think he's going to join Corbin Carroll as real tentpole players for that team moving forward. I think there's more offense in Alec Thomas. We saw a guy like Kevin Ginkel really help their bullpen. Let's not forget, Paul Sewald's there from the beginning of the year, which lines up their bullpen better. I don't think they could get to 100, which I assume is where the Dodgers are getting. But I think the Diamondbacks are a playoff team again.
I love Moreno, by the way. Youngest catcher to start in the World Series since Posey. Looks like a bad trade for the Blue Jays. Go ahead.
Do you ever get the impression from dealing with the Arizona squad that they kind of relish the fact that people just think they're okay? It doesn't seem like they don't publicly come out with, we got a chip on our shoulder, but they seem to manage that in-house, and it almost seems like your conversation with Mike and learning some more about them. If we take care of what we take care of, I don't care what anybody else does, we'll be okay.
So, Bill, you know what I found interesting is literally the first day I was in spring training in 2023, not just 2024, I stopped in Diamondback camp. I just had a hunch. I'm usually wrong about these things. I thought they might be much better than people anticipated. I do think a 10-pole player is important, and I thought Corbin Carroll was going to be outstanding. We saw what it meant for, like, Baltimore once Adley Rutschman came up. It began to change things. When you have a young, dynamic player, good on both, excellent on both sides of the ball. And in that spring training, when I talked to Mike Hazen, he said, I hope this team forces me to be a buyer in July. This year, he said, I expect to be a buyer in July.